world. A 60-minute report of the events which are, at this moment, filling today's chapter in the Chronicle of Time. Produced by the award-winning WTVT News, Weather, and Sports staff.
From our Color Communications Center, this is Pulse. Here now is Channel 13's Ron Meyer. Direct from Channel 13's Color Communications Center, this is Pulse.
Otra vez. Come here. Let me tell you something. I remember Tampa, the way she used to be, the places we would run to, the faces we would see. Yes, I remember Tampa, those precious memories, a city rising on the move, a simple yet progressive groove. I remember Tampa, and she remembers me. Yeah. She remembers me.
Welcome to the Tampa Native Show. Stay tuned now for the fastest 60 minutes in cable broadcast history. Live from the studios at TBCN, the home of the Tampa Native Show. Join your hosts, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella, as they celebrate growing up in Tampa. From Shock Armstrong to Shakey's Pizza, from Braddock Street to Buffalo Avenue. Get ready to call in and tell us your stories, because sharing your memories has never been this much fun. And now, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella.
She remembers me.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You know, if it's Thursday, and in this week's case, if it's 6:30, it's got to be the Tampa Native Show. My name is Mario Nunez. I'm seated alongside my co-host and partner,
Steve Canella,
a.k.a.
Tampa Steve.
And to his left,
Sally Nunez,
a.k.a.
the 15-Minute Girl.
And we can't tell you how happy we are to be broadcasting here from the studios of TBCN. Tonight's show is guaranteed to set records, and we're so glad that you're there with us. We've got a special in-studio guest. As you saw in the opening, tonight's show is all about the glorious years, those golden years of Big 13, WTVT, the CBS affiliate here when Tampa was just a fledgling city, and it got its first crack at TV broadcasting, really. We've got some pictures and some videos that you haven't seen probably in the better part of 40, maybe even 50 years. Tonight is going to be a special show. As you can see, we have here on the set Shock Armstrong with us, and in case you're wondering, that is the original.
That's the original, right?
That is the original Shock Armstrong head, if you will, that was seen rotating on Friday nights on that little spindle when Shock Theater was introduced to all of us as we were kids and teenagers. That started out, as you'll learn later from Mike Clark, our guest, as a candy receptacle for Halloween, and it's dated back to 1968. So
imagine that.
Pretty special show we have in store for you this evening. As will happen in live TV, things come together serendipitously, and tonight was no exception. We had some technical issues early on. We ironed them out just before we lit the lamp, and here we go.
Yep.
We'd like to give a special shout out tonight to Mr. Jim Hooper, who is sitting in and assisting us tonight. Jim, thanks for being there. Mr. Eric Cups, who is also in studio with us and helping us.
Thank you.
Mike Clark, who you'll meet in just a minute. And en route from Tampa International Airport, he'll be here soon to answer our phones for us, Mr. Mark Fisher. So as we do each and every week, we're going to start off by welcoming our new viewers and our new guests, as well as saying hello and giving a shout out to our sponsors without whom we wouldn't be here. Steve?
Nope.
You want to share this duty with me? Or you
I
want
sure
me
will.
Yeah, let me go ahead and I'll do the sponsors, and if you'll do the personal contributors.
Yeah, that's a deal. Let's do that.
Our sponsors include, and once again, each and every week, we thank them. Why? Because without them, well,
We wouldn't be here.
we wouldn't
not
be here,
be
quite
here.
honestly. They're the reason that we can pay the bills, if you will. Alessi Bakery, thank you. The Italian Club, La Unione Italiana. Wright's Gourmet House. Stamatacas Thalgi and Bonanno. Amarilli's Sandwiches and More. And Cacciatore Brothers, Philip Cacciatore. PJ Testa Accounting. PJ, thank you. Costantino and Company, Fran Costantino. South Tampa Chiropractic Clinic, Dr. Thomas Aguero. Housewife Bake Shop. Columbia Jobbing. Florida Blood Services, and the Colonnade.
And for our personal contributors, we have Frank Cueto, Ronnie DeRigo, chefs Dave Del Rio and George Tamargo, Henry and Raul Castillo, Phil and Carmen Nunez, Mike and Kathy White, Copeland and Stephanie More,
And just this week,
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to
Perfect.
meet again with Mr. Mike Faedo
Yes.
of the Faedo family of Caracolillo Mills. And rumor has it that they'll be joining very soon our family of sponsors. And to Doña Carmen Faedo, who I met yesterday, thank you so much for being gracious. And we look forward to talking to you again and having you join our family of sponsors.
And I wanted to say Caracolillo.
Caracolillo.
Very nice. Steve.
Very
bad.
nicely done.
I
And
practiced.
And
Well
you
done.
thought all he could say was arroz con huevo frito. A big shout out also to all of you out there who are conducting watch parties, because we know you are. We ask you each and every week, if you're out there, you've got a watch party going, and let's be honest, a watch party could be a watch party of one. If
Correct.
you can set that camera up automatically and come in there and take that photograph of yourself, of course, with the image of our show in the background, got to have that proof of life, send it to us. We will come out next Tuesday when this show replays and make a personal appearance at your place of business, at your house, mostly at your house if you're having us at your house.
That might be a lonely party, though. Party of one.
Let's go ahead and cover the
Before,
question
right
of the week this week, so that way you can start to prime the pump. Get ready, you know, as you call in, and we expect a lot of callers tonight because we've got people from all over the country watching. When you call in, we'll ask you a couple of questions. We'll ask you to answer the question of the week. We'll ask you if you might know Tony Zapponi's Tampa trivia question, and we'll also ask you for your Bolita drawing number. Now, for those of you that are watching for the first time, at the end of the show, we honor our forefathers here in Tampa and our notorious past, if you will, by having a simulated, Steve,
Bolita drawing.
only
Not
simulated,
Right.
right? This is not
perfectly legal.
perfectly legal, as the mayor can attest. And we'll draw some, let's call them bingo, little wooden bingo balls out of his hat.
Yes.
Now, 1 to 75. Okay, give the 15-minute girl your number. We've got this best of, you're not going to believe this, best of Ernie Lee collection that we're going to be
Now,
giving.
that's pretty
in
rare.
keeping with Big 13, the theme tonight. So,
Extremely rare.
if you'd like in on that, make sure when you call, you answer those questions. And here's your question of the week, brought to you by Stamatacas Thalgi and Bonanno, in keeping with our topic, Big 13. Mary Ellen or Ernie Lee, which was your personal favorite? I'm guessing that if you're our age, probably Mary Ellen, and if you're maybe of the older set, got up earlier than we did, watched the morning show, maybe Ernie Lee. But that's for you to decide.
You know, I'd say Ernie Lee for me. Because,
Serious?
Yeah, because Saturday mornings I would get up to watch Tarzan Theater at 7 a.m.
Well, there you
And
go.
the replay for Ernie Lee was playing from 6:30 to 7.
Yeah.
And Michael will attest to that and clarify that.
That's our first bell ringing
Yeah,
of the night.
there you go. So put me down for Ernie Lee.
Put him down for Ernie Lee, darling.
Dad
Well,
loved Ernie Lee too.
We and we have some video of Ernie Lee coming up. So listen, if you're getting home and you're just getting settled, please settle quickly, because you're not going to want to miss any of these videos. We asked for a special 30-minute dispensation tonight so we can come up with extra time for you, because we've got that much to cover. And guess what? TBCN was gracious enough to grant that to us, and here we are.
Thank you, TBCN.
About
Yes.
6 minutes, 7 minutes into the show now, we've got one more video that we're going to call up in just a moment. And when we do, as we come back from that video, don't go to that video just yet, but as we come back from that video, we'll have our special guest sitting with us. Now,
I think we have some never seen before videos tonight too.
never seen before videos, and videos that, well,
Have
quite
never been
honestly,
seen.
have never been seen before. So let me give you the Tony Zapponi Tampa trivia question of the week, so you can be pondering that as well. And Tony, you know, is a great friend of the show. We met him today for lunch, and he always comes up with these brain busters, and tonight's is no different. So for those of you taking notes at home, and we know you are, here's your Tony Zapponi Tampa trivia of the week, brought to you by
Tony Peroni, Housewife Bake Shop.
Easy for him to say. Try it again, Steve. Let's do it again like we usually do.
Let's do it. Let's do it right.
This is Tony Zapponi Tampa Trivia brought to you by
Tony Peroni, Housewife Bake Shop.
Housewife Bake Shop.
And that rhymes. We set that up.
Here's your question or your Tony Zapponi Trivia of the week. For many decades, he was one of Tampa's most colorful businessmen. All of his ads professed he could get it for you wholesale. He ran for public office dozens of times, finally won as election supervisor in the 60s, and was removed from office a year later by Governor Claude Kirk for malfeasance. Well, what was this man's name and one of Tampa's history's most eccentric personalities? Can you name him? We think you might be able to. I've got the answer right here, but I'm not telling.
I know.
All right.
His questions are hard.
Well, his questions are hard, but
They're good
we
questions.
thought
They're
none
great.
was going to be harder than last week's question, and Damian Benito called in,
First call.
busted
First call.
right on the first call of the night,
Yeah.
and got what we thought was going to be a pretty tough question. I think somebody's going to get this one because here's a little spoiler alert. We've talked about this before in the past, so this gentleman's name has come up. That's all I'm going to say. All right, Jeffrey. When we come back from this video, our special guest will be in studio. We can't wait to talk to him, and he can't wait to talk to us. So if you'll go to that video number 1. No, not that one. Yeah, that one right there. Go to that one, and when we come back, we'll have our guest in the studio. Enjoy this.
Channel 13, we're on the Gulf in sunny Florida. From the highlands to the Gulf, sands from the ridge to the shore, you will always see more Channel 13. We're CBS for Suncoast, Florida. And the star's right address is our own CBS, and they're all seen on Big 13.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, well, as you can see, the set has expanded to include our VIP guest all the way from Los Angeles,
Yes.
a gentleman who, spent a great number of years working at Big 13, knows the story intimately, is the webmaster of a website that I would encourage each and every one of you to visit at some point. It's big13.net. Big13.net. We had lunch with him today. Mike Clark, say hello to your audience.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here tonight. Thank you for having me.
Mike reminded me just before we came back to him that, hey, you should have said something about Uncle Bruce. Tease that Uncle Bruce. Well, Uncle Bruce is going to be calling us later this evening, and you want to stick around for that. Now, for those of you that don't remember Uncle Bruce, shame on you. And for those of you that do, you're in for a big treat. He's 80 years young. He's living in Minneapolis, St. Paul. He's primed. He's watching us on the computer. Uncle Bruce, we know you're out there watching, so we'll be looking forward to that call.
Hi,
Mike,
Uncle
thanks for
Bruce.
being here with us.
Yeah, and even though Uncle Bruce worked for WFLA, and they were the competition
Right,
for
correct.
Big 13 for many years,
Correct.
we consider Uncle Bruce one of our dearest friends. He's an amazing person, and for those of you who were lucky enough to grow up watching him, you're going to get to hear him tonight again for the first time since I think he left the airwaves on WFLA back in 1964. And if we're lucky, he may let little Mike, his little partner, talk to us too.
Really?
Oh, my
Oh,
goodness.
what
Yeah.
a treat.
And little Mike, we've got a video coming up a little bit later on, including little Mike that's, I think, going to knock your socks off. We already have our first caller. We have so much ground to cover tonight, I don't think that we should...
Delay.
Yeah, delay, because
No.
callers are going to be... So what do you say, Mike? Ready to take your first call?
Is this going to be a question?
It may very well be. It may
Okay.
be a comment. It may be
Okay.
somebody willing to
we have
answer
Tony Zapponi's question
answer
of the
Tony
week,
Zapponi's
possibly.
question. And we usually play this game each and every week.
Oh, yeah.
Who do we think
we
it
try,
is?
We try to guess who we think that first caller is, and they don't cue us from the directors. booth,
There's
so-
there's no screener here.
no
No.
screener. No screener. This is all live.
You're looking at us.
We do have a screener, but he doesn't tip his hand. Okay, darling, you first.
I think it could be Ricky T. Parnell.
Ricky T. Parnell,
Southeast-
all the way
Southeast
from
correspondent.
Curitiba, Brazil. Okay, Stevie.
I say Joe Beanie.
Oh, Joe Abini, that's fresh.
Hasn't been to
You know,
Hawaii for a
I'm
while.
gonna go out of the. I'm gonna say Hugh Perret tonight because
Okay.
Hugh is due to call first. But what are the chances it's gonna be Davian Benito? Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the caller. Stevie, do what you do.
Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
You're all wrong.
Oh, it's
Oh,
Fran.
we know that voice.
I
We know
recognize that voice.
Hi, Fran.
It's Fran. Hi, everybody.
Hi, sweetie.
Hi,
Fran.
Fran. How are you?
I'm good. I just got off the phone with Zapponi, who would not give me a hint as to what it was.
Oh,
He
you
wouldn't
tried,
tell
huh?
you. He
Good
wouldn't
try,
tell
though.
you.
I'm going to guess Jim Fair.
Oh wow!
my gosh.
Wow.
Well,
Ladies
you
and
guessed
gentlemen,
correctly.
No more callers. We have our winner.
We have a
That's
winner.
pretty good.
That's what
But I
happened
told
last
Tony
week.
today at lunch, Fran, that
Oh
I
my
thought,
gosh.
because we have discussed him in the past as one of our most eccentric and colorful characters. Can I read the answer for you that he provided, Fran?
Sure.
Stand by just a moment. Let me put on my lenses here. He says, his store was on South Franklin Street, just north of Brorine. He called it the Salvation Navy. His phone number was forever 22222 until area phones went to 7 digits almost 50 years ago, at which time his number became 2292222. He was the first person to ever sue the phone company to get a specific number. He moved to Tallahassee in the 70s, where he passed away several decades ago, and his name was Jim Fair. Very good, Fran.
That was great.
Nice job.
Congratulations. Tell him what she's won, Johnny. Well, this week, Tony Zapponi has made provisions
Yeah, it's a good prize.
for a very nice prize, by the way. A gentleman by the name of Pepito, and we didn't get Pepito's last name, but we do know that it's pepitosportraits.com, Pepito, singular, forgive me, pepitoportraits.com, and it's Pepito's Masterpiece Portraits. That's the name of his particular business and studio, photographer, professional photographer, and
Yeah.
he's going to be taking a photograph
Of you.
of you, Fran, as the winner this week. And each and every week, our winner will be granted one photograph. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I would like one myself.
Yeah, we're going to get
He's
one for
very
the crew.
talented, Fran.
Let's take a group picture with
I've
Fran.
seen some
Fran,
of this stuff.
before you leave us, please tell us, and I'll mention La Septima a little bit later, Franny, so don't worry, I've got it in my notes. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just going to pick number 69.
I already
Of course,
put you
we already
down.
wrote you down for 69. And how about the
No
question of the week?
worries.
Mary Ellen or Ernie Lee?
No, Ernie Lee.
Ernie
Oh,
Lee.
Ernie
Okay.
Lee, out to an early start, baby. Put that
Yeah.
down there by Ernie
2-1.
Lee.
Still
Fran?
like Mary Ellen too, but he was a classic.
Yes, he was.
Fran, do you remember Channel 13 like we do?
Oh my God, for sure.
Was it favorite memory, just something that comes to you, a wash real quick? Something that you might think of first?
Actually, just the Ernie Lee show, Salty Salt Flashman, were they
Salty
all
Salt.
Channel 13, I think?
Yep.
Yes, of course. Salty Salt,
Absolutely.
Mary Ellen, Andy Hardy, Hugh Smith, Roy Lee.
No, salute and happy days.
Salute and
There you
happy
go.
days.
Great
Fran, we love you.
television.
Thank you so much.
Hey, take care, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Fran.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Off to a great start. Look, our next caller's on the air already.
All right, tell me what you told me today about the antenna.
Which antenna? Oh, okay.
TVT.
Yeah, let me talk about that a little bit. And you know what? I've got to get these cameras right because I think I'm looking. Okay.
Yeah, where's
that's-
the wide shot?
Our wide is there. Our camera number 2 is our wide.
They have a lot of cameras here for this.
There's 5. 4 are in play, and I've got it now. Camera 2 is our wide. So let me address camera 2. I was talking a little bit earlier to Steve in pre-production. I mentioned to him that, back in the earliest days, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Mike, but, there were 3 stations here. 3 VHF, 2 UHF. There was Channel 38, Channel 44 on the UHF side, and there were 3. There was WFLA, which was Channel 8, which was the NBC affiliate back then. There was CBS, which was Channel 13, and then, of course, that interloper from across the water, that was WLCY, and that was Channel 10, the
Remember that.
ABC affiliate.
Yeah.
But back then, I remember as a little kid denoting the stations primarily by their call letters. In other words, yes, it became Big 13 a little bit later on,
Yeah.
but whenever you drove by Krispy Kreme to go get the donuts on the way home, and you drove by the station, you saw the tower, which was illuminated at night, and it always said WTVT.
Right.
So that's how I knew it. Of course, WFLA we knew was downtown, and WLCY was across the bay. But WLCY was more known, I think, in our circles because of the radio station.
station,
Right,
yes.
yeah.
That's 138.
Yes.
Yes.
And by the way, this is all age related, but you're thinking of the early days as being the 1960s.
Correct.
I'm thinking of the early days as being the 1950s.
There
you
So,
go. So it's a matter of perspective.
There
Right.
was only WTVT, WFLA, and WSUN.
Right.
back then.
WSUN.
WLCY didn't come around until 1965, and WTOG didn't come around until 68.
Wow.
44.
So we really only, and interesting sidebar. I've said this before on the show. You'll find this interesting as well. My parents moved to Florida. My dad was born here. They moved up to New York. They got married there, moved back to Florida in 1955.
Wow.
I came around in 58. Here's the interesting factoid. They brought with them a television set from New York that they weren't able to turn on. I came back in 52. They weren't able to turn it on until 55.
Yes.
So they had a TV sitting
Yes.
in their living room for 3 years that they couldn't use.
Yeah.
Because there was no TV.
That's right. The FCC held up all the license applications, and I got to tell you, we'll get on to the meat here, but there was
Sure.
a lot of acrimony in getting Channel 8 on the air and Channel 13 on the air. There was a lot of legal maneuvering. So that delayed us getting television in Tampa area and the Tampa Bay area, if I can use that expression.
Please do.
And I qualify this. I consider myself from Tampa Bay because I lived in St. Petersburg,
Right.
Tampa, and Clearwater. So I cover it all.
And back in those days, you know, we talk about it all the time on the show. It was the Tampa St. Pete Clearwater area, Tampa St. Pete International Airport. And you know, we didn't necessarily, Tampa Bay, that vernacular, that phrasing didn't come into play until the Buccaneers in '76.
Right.
Because up until that point, every municipality, Tampa, St. Pete, and Clearwater, had its proper identity.
Yes. Yes.
Things are getting a little bit murky, Mike, and we rail on the show every week about that. Let's take our next caller. What do you say?
We got a bunch.
Yes.
Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Emilio Garcia.
Oh,
Junior.
Emilio?
Junior.
Junior.
Hi, Emilio.
How y'all doing?
Great. Great to see you. Great to hear you.
Good to
Great
hear
to
from
hear
you.
your voice. We miss your calls, but we're glad you got through tonight.
Yeah, and I was going to tell you, in 1963, I owned a home and lived right behind WTVT on 210 North Bradford.
No, you didn't.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I did.
So wait a minute. If I hear you correctly, not only was that tower in your backyard, so to speak,
On the side of my house.
the side of your house, but whenever that red light went on at Krispy Kreme, you knew that too, right?
I was walking distance, man.
Oh, wow.
You could smell the donuts.
I
from his
can't
house.
even imagine. Give us a fond memory, or if you have a question for our guest tonight. You know, Mike is the self-proclaimed authority on all matters WTVT, and I won't dispute him because he really does know his stuff.
Right.
Questions or comments, or something that you always wanted to know about WTVT?
Well, I don't know. I watch it so much.
Tell you what,
I don't have
let me
no
pick up the
questions. I
thought here
mean,
because I have a story
I
about
know
that.
all about them.
Mike's
Yeah,
got something
yes.
he wants to say.
Thank you, caller. I wanted to say that the back of the station faced North A Street, and one of the residents out there once put a sign in his window that said, "I'm always watching Channel 13."
Oh, how
Oh,
neat.
that is very
How
cool.
nice is
Now,
that?
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes Channel 13 was a little bit of a bother to the neighborhood. Once Roy Leap put up a new Doppler radar, and it put out a high-pitched cricket sound every few seconds.
no.
Yeah.
And we heard it driving into the parking lot. We're going, what's that sound? We finally figured out it was Roy's new Doppler radar. The neighbors got a little upset about it, so they had to put a muffler on it to take care of that sound.
Yeah.
But that's
I
just,
lived at 210 North Bradford.
North
well, we'll
Bradford.
be over after dinner.
Emilio, give us your bolita
Have
drawing
the
number.
donuts ready.
Baby.
Okay, my choice is Ernie Lee.
Ernie Lee
Okay.
is your choice. Excellent. Ernie Lee's out to a great start, I'm telling you. Where's the Mary Ellen
kinda
fan?
had a
And your
feeling.
number?
45.
45.
Emilio,
I'm
thanks for
putting
being
it
such a
down.
great fan.
All right, brother.
Thanks, Emilio.
anytime.
We appreciate you. Thank you. That's Emilio Garcia Jr., who calls us whenever he can get in each and every week, and he's a great fan.
And Mario, could I mention something too,
Please.
which some of the people may not know, is that big13.net, which is the website that's dedicated to the history of Channel 13, that I started 10 years ago, it's now 10 years old, is now also big13.com. We were able to pick up that address
wonderful.
recently.
Nice. That's good.
So
Very
now you
nice.
can go to either address, and it's very easy to remember because it's big13.com.
Beautiful.
And
Chock full of information.
if you haven't visited the site, I got to tell you that it's chock full of information on all your favorite WTVT personalities, but it also tells the story of the people who work behind the scenes to make the station so superior.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
Channel 13 was always on the cutting edge of technology. They had the best personalities, and with that wonderful mobile unit, we took Tampa Bay area viewers back in the 50s and 60s to space launches, to Cypress Gardens on network TV specials. And before the internet and all that, that was Tampa, the Tampa area's window to the world, was that mobile unit. And the viewers got to go along for the ride.
You know, Mike, I went to that website the other day, and I couldn't believe how many pictures and how many stories were in
Yeah.
there.
I
And-
visit it frequently.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
You know
Very,
what,
very
I'm glad you,
detailed.
Steve, I'm glad you brought that up, because when we're talking about preservation of television materials, many television stations lost a lot of their materials, or they were either live and went out over the air and were never seen again. Only a precious few minutes, maybe an hour or two of WTVT programming exists for the first 25 or 30 years. And what does exist was saved by employees, and particularly most of the pictures on our website were saved from the dumpster.
Oh,
And that's not unusual for stations to kind of lose some of their history. But we were fortunate enough to save enough to put together this terrific website.
It is very, very good website.
So you were a big part of the preservation of the history of the
Absolutely,
WTVT.
absolutely. And you might ask, well, what makes me so crazy about Channel 13?
What does?
Well, thank you for asking, Steve. You're very kind.
Timing is everything.
I grew up watching Channel 13 from the time I was a little boy. We lived here in St. Petersburg. Occasionally we'd move out of town for a year or two. But I watched Channel 13 growing up, and even as a child, their technology interested me, but their personalities too.
Sure.
I got to watch Mary Ellen. I got to watch 3D Danny. I got to watch Ernie Lee. Although I'm not a country music fan, he draws you in.
Yeah.
His
Sure.
charm,
Quite
you
a
can't escape it.
personality.
I got to grow up watching this and enjoy the shots they were doing with their mobile unit. They would take that mobile unit back in the early 60s and cover NASA recovery missions for the original Mercury space program. We got exclusive video sent back to Tampa that we watched in the Tampa Bay area that nobody else in the country saw because our mobile unit was on that aircraft carrier.
Wow.
Oh, the great story.
And the shots of that whole experience of them loading the truck onto the carrier, and that was pretty cool stuff.
That's all on the website, and it tells the complete story of the mobile unit. If you go on there, you'll learn about not only the personalities, but the technology. And for instance, today, our cameras that are shooting me right now, they're pretty small. They're easily handheld. The cameras that WTVT started off with, black and white cameras as they were still pretty good size.
Sure.
And when we went color, those cameras got like 250 pounds.
Wow.
And with the pedestal, you had 500 pounds of camera that you had to give a good shove to move across the room.
Around.
Yeah, but WTVT was always there with the technology, and they were first in the Tampa Bay area, if I could use that expression.
Yes, thank you. See
with
that?
local.
Another bell ring.
Area.
We like that.
I'll try and learn.
Mike learns this.
I'll try and get it straight.
Yeah.
But they were first with local live color in 1966, and they did it to beat Channel 8, who also had their cameras delivered. Channel 13 put their camera on top of a crate and aimed it at Hugh Smith. He was the first WTVT person to appear live in color, and they beat Channel 8 that way. It's always between 13 and 8 over all these years, and beat them. But, I got to tell you that we've had a couple of reunions, one in 2003, one in 2005, and we invited our former Channel 8 opponents like Arch Deal and Jerry Martin, who was Barney Bungalupper. And it's kind of like Russia and the United States. We're kind of like friends now. So
friendly now, but shoe banging on the table back then.
Yeah, and by the way, tonight's telecast, would you call it?
Sure.
Is being viewed by a lot of Channel 13 employees who are all over the country. In fact, I'm getting emails as we speak right here on my laptop.
That's wonderful.
We've got some.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
We've got some people in Los Angeles. We've got some people in Texas and New York, and Uncle Bruce watching in Minneapolis, because Channel 13 was a nucleus for creating personalities and production people who spread out all over the countries. We've got people who are right now nominated for Emmys this year in camera work. We've had certainly Emmy winners in the past. We've had reporters who've gone to the network. But fortunately, many of the greatest people stayed here because the Tampa area and St. Pete and Clearwater is so wonderful.
It is
Well,
wonderful.
I will not argue you're going to get, you're preaching to the choir, as they say, Michael, because everybody here at this table, I think, is safe to say.
By the way, that's me in the background. That's me.
That's Mike on that camera there, high Q.
That's me running camera on high Q, and I was about 21 or 22 years old. When
And
this
who
was
doesn't
taken.
remember high Q?
remember
that. Yes.
And the bell is a tribute to high Q, because of course, that's how you get.
And
And that's Robinson High School.
Look at the size of that camera here. I'll move out of the way.
There you go.
But this camera here, there we go.
There we go.
That camera is a General Electric colored camera. It has 4 tubes in it, and it weighed like about 200 pounds. And it's sitting on top of a pedestal that weighs 200 pounds. But you know what? WTVT production crews were network quality because they were hired by the networks for football games, for the Merv Griffin show, for the space launches. So our camera work had to be exceptional, and we brought all that back to the studio, and we were as good in the studio doing Publix commercials and doing public service programs like Church Service and Black Contact and musical numbers and Ernie's numbers. So we were really...
Was the captain on CBS as well?
The Captain Mac?
Kangaroo.
The captain as in kangaroo.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. We did a remote with Captain Kangaroo back in
Oh, there you go,
1975
Bob Keesey.
at Busch Gardens.
There
and
you go.
Here we were. We had watched Captain growing up as children because he started in 1955. I was only 3 at that time.
Yes.
And we got to work with the captain and Mr. Green Jeans.
Dancing Bear.
Dancing Bear,
Bunny
Bunny
Rabbit.
Rabbit.
Dancing Bear wasn't there, but Bunny Rabbit was.
Mm-hmm.
And we met the fellow who operated the puppets and was always hiding in boxes and everything. But the great thrill was working with Captain Kangaroo.
fun.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was
What a treat
very
that was.
nice and wonderful.
Yeah. Well, here we go. If we could, the next few pictures are important because we want to run through all the series of 3s up to the last one that says Mary Ellen Set.
We'll get to WSUN in a while, by the way.
And then we're gonna run that Mary Ellen video, which is coming up because we've got so many videos. This is on the set of. Talk a little bit about this, Mike.
Yes. Well, Mary Ellen is, and you were asking, who between Ernie Lee and Mary Ellen.
Sure.
Of course, I'm a Mary Ellen guy because I grew up watching her. This is on the set of her show Popeye's Playhouse. She had several titles for her show. She started at WTVT in 1957. She was on the air till 1964. And Mary Ellen was just a wonderful on-camera host. She was totally natural. She didn't talk down to children. You felt like she was right there in your living room. And I didn't get a chance to meet her till later on in my life. And I was delighted to discover that she was exactly that personality. The camera captured everything.
Oh, what a great
There was not a
realization.
phony bone in her body. She was genuine and optimistic, and it was one of the great experiences meeting her. And we're going to have an exclusive interview that has never aired that I shot with Mary Ellen a few years ago tonight on Tampa Native Show.
Oh,
How
my
wonderful.
goodness, my goodness. Now look at this photograph here. Take us out so that we can see this. Caller, we see you there. We're going to come to you in a minute. Please don't hang
Yeah,
up.
we got a lot to tell you.
For our local viewers,
Yes.
that's
3D Danny
3D
on the
Danny
left.
on the left. That's Mary Ellen, of course, with Poop Deck.
Yes, I
Poop
see.
Deck's in her
yes,
hand there?
Yes.
And the gentleman in the middle, we think, when we can't verify for sure if somebody
Manny.
out there is watching and they can verify, we think that's none other than Manny DeCastro. So if it is, please call us and let us know, confirm that is Manny DeCastro. That's Al Lopez Field. She's doing a promotional there. There's the Major League players during spring training in the background.
The billboards in the background.
The billboards on the fence,
On
the
the-
outside. There's, of course, the light stanchion there and the kids that are kind of leaning over the rail to get into the shot there. Now, the next picture is, of course, the Mary Ellen set.
Yes,
And that's a wonderful
we
shot
should
as
mention
well.
that they made many personal appearances, and they were always very popular. And sometimes Poop Deck would fly away, and they'd have to put a ladder up on the building and go
to
up
go
and
get him. To go get him. Because Poop Deck had a mind of his own.
Yes, he
He
liked
liked
to
to
chew
fix her.
pencils, and he liked to chew fingers if you put
Oh,
him in the
no.
cage.
And I'll say this, I'll go on record as saying this, we're honored to be the first to display that video that's
Yeah.
going to be coming up in
Okay,
just a couple of minutes.
Let's go to that next picture.
Next
Bob.
picture, and while that picture comes up, we'll go ahead and take this caller. Caller, thank you for your patience. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Oh, this is Arch Deal.
Oh, this is
Deal.
Arch Deal.
I've heard of him.
The great Arch Deal. Well, if we could pull up picture number 16 while we're talking to the great Arch Deal, and then we'll come back to this Mary Ellen shot right there with James Arness. That's James Arness. There we
There
go.
he is. There he is.
Arch, we've got you on camera with us now. Tell us a funny story.
Well, let's see. I remember, you talked about Mary Ellen a moment ago. I remembered taking my children to see Mary Ellen, and one of the most amazing things is her memory. She never forgot anything. Had just a perfect memory, and she was, as Mike said, just such a genuine person, really a wonderful person. And I have to say hello to Mike, and I've talked with him many times. It's a great pleasure, really.
It's an honor to speak with Arch Deal, one of the great voices of all time, and former enemy of Channel 13. Again, I speak to We're All Friends, and even Arch will remember that when he had his first parachute accident, that Hugh Smith came to his hospital room and interviewed him for Channel 13. So I think he kind of scooped Channel 8 there, didn't he, Arch?
He did. As a matter of fact, you mentioned the cameras, and Channel 13 was the first one to use the Ikigami, the little tiny creepy peepee camera, and that's the one that Hugh interviewed me in the hospital room with that, which I thought was a marvelous thing. I was his #1 competitor, and he came to the hospital room and did a little mini documentary with me. That was tremendous.
That says a lot.
I had to thank a lot of Hugh for doing that.
Well, we've got that anniversary coming up. You just told me about at the end of this month, or next month, I should say. Is that correct, Arch?
That's right, June 22nd, the time of my infamous bounce.
Big bounce.
Cypress Gardens.
Yeah.
And Arch, you'll be glad to know that we'll be doing a tribute to Hugh Smith in a few minutes with a call-in from Hugh's son, Ward.
Yep, we hope that Ward's watching now, and he's going to get a chance to call in as well. Arch, we were honored to have you on our very first show back in September of last year. We promised to have you back in studio with us again soon. I knew you would call tonight because we talked previously and set this up, and I just want to say on behalf of the Tampa Native Show, our guest Mike Clark, and all of our techs and personnel in studio tonight with us. Thank you so much for calling.
Could we mention Arch's book that he's holding there
Oh,
in
absolutely.
that picture?
Absolutely.
It's a great
Take
book,
us out
by
for a
the way.
second.
Yeah.
What's the title of that book there, Arch?
That's the corporate fall guy. I was the corporate fall guy for Miller Brewing Company for 10 years. And that's a real tribute because they paid me so well, even better than television. And they sent me all over the world, skydiving everywhere, and just having a lot of fun. So, and I was working with John Madden and all the great guys, Mickey Spillane, and all the great all-stars, most of them football, baseball, and basketball.
But Arch, you're also talking about your wonderful news career and all the incredible stories you covered for WFLA.
As a matter of fact, you mentioned the competitiveness, but the reason I wound up in the Tampa Bay area, Eugene Dodson, the former manager of Channel 13, was vacationing in the foothills of the Carolinas, and he saw me on WSOC television in Charlotte. And that's the way I wound up at Channel 13 first.
Yes.
In the area. So I did appreciate that, and I sort of got the sand in my shoes and really enjoyed the Tampa Bay area.
It's a great place.
And we're so grateful that you decided to stick around, Arch, because we got a chance to enjoy that voice all those years.
Oh, it's great. And Mike, thanks so much for your wonderful work you've done and keeping us informed on everything. Really a fantastic job. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arch.
What a great night for the Tampa Native
Yes.
Show. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Arch. We'll talk to you again soon. Did you give us your Bolita drawing number?
No.
Let's see. Why don't I take...
How about 8 for Channel 8? What do you think about 8, Arch?
8 sounds good.
Okay.
8 sounds good. And
probably
it
win.
may be an
Still have
unfair
8.
question, but Mary Ellen or Ernie Lee?
I knew both, but that has to go. I'm always the ladies' man.
Absolutely.
That's why I said we thought it was a loaded question, so okay. We'll give you that one. Mary Ellen it is.
Very good.
Thanks, Arch. Thanks so
you,
much for
Arch.
calling.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you so much. Have a great evening, guys.
Thank you, ladies
Bye.
and gentlemen. That's the great
Arch
The
Deal.
very great Arch
Awesome.
Deal.
Yeah.
I read his book, by the way.
Awesome
It's
call.
fantastic.
It's a great
I read his book as well, and there's lots of interesting stories about covering news in the Tampa Bay area and also the Cuban situation
Yes.
back
Yes.
in the...
You talked about that?
Yeah, so definitely a great
It's like
read.
We
Quite a
gave away
life.
one of his books actually to Emilio Garcia, who called earlier tonight. Arch met us at a restaurant, signed the book for Emilio. It was a great night for the show.
And we mentioned he had like a life like James Bond almost. You
No,
know?
no, no.
Yeah.
That's our first guest in the new show was Arch Deal, and of course, I've been saying it ever since. You know, if I get the chance to come back next time, Mike, I want to come back as Arch Deal because I don't think anybody had a cooler.
Except those 2 crashes he had.
Yeah, well,
You know,
we'll leave that
Leave
part
that
out.
part
Arch used
after
to be 6'4". He's now like 5'6".
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
true.
he told us.
You know, this
Okay,
shot
good.
here is. If
That's
you'll take us out.
yeah, take us out. That's
3D
3D Danny on the left, played by Ed Scott, one of the announcers at Channel 13.
Yep.
And Rough Nick the Robot is at the right, and there I am blocking him.
There we
There you
go.
go.
And what you're looking at is there's, of course, a man inside that suit. His name was Lyle Red Cook, and he was a former student at St. Petersburg College, as many Channel 13 employees were. And Red came to the station one day with his ventriloquist dummy looking for work, and they liked the voices he did and stuck him inside that robot. And so that's Red inside there and working
Lucky
with.
guy.
It was a daily live show. They had their adventures, and some of them were quite ambitious. They were produced and directed by the production manager at the time, Ken Smith, and it was all live. So if they had a problem, they had to live with it, as all live shows do. But they would use ordinary studio equipment as props. Like, for instance, a light would become a ray beam, or any kind of equipment that they could use that they didn't have to go out and make. They would use and stock footage from the movie Forbidden Planet for the flying saucer. And 3D Danny ran from about 1957 to about 61. And I'll share with you a story about why it left the air. And this is kind of station lore, so maybe take it with a grain of salt. Ed Scott went out on location filming every once in a while to get the adventures in the quarries and things. And rumor has it that he came back with muddy boots, and the station didn't want to give him some new boots, and he didn't like that and left the 3D Danny show. But we have some legacy from Ed Scott. If you go to Henderson Boulevard and you look at Ed's Pipe Shop, that was started by Ed. shortly after he left the station, and he was managing it personally, and he also manufactured smoking pipes.
That's the one
and
with the big pipe that was
Yes,
on top.
I remember
Yes.
that.
Exactly.
Classic.
That's Ed's Pipe Shop. That's from Ed Scott, and that was started back in the 60s. So
Yeah,
that's
interesting.
That was a landmark, and anybody who
Yeah.
lived in the area, of course, you drove by and you saw it all the
It was
time.
very cool.
Not
Right.
unlike State Vacuum with the gorilla outside
Yeah.
that's still there.
Yeah.
And
And
of
that was
course,
neon, right? It was probably Johnny Sanchez.
I bet it was.
You know what? Could I mention something, Jeff, in the booth and Hoop? Could you put up the shot of the station again, the wide shot that's on Kennedy Boulevard? Because I wanted to mention that part of the impression that I
280,
had
yep,
from
there it is.
13, yeah. Look at this building. This is a very large footprint and very visible right there on what was then Grand Central
Grand
and
Central.
later
Yeah.
Kennedy Boulevard. But look at that building. It's magnificent. And that tower, which you can see WTVT from either direction,
Correct.
was a real landmark. Channel 8 was kind of hidden away up on Jackson Street, Channel 38 on the $1 Million Pier, but a lot of people drove by this building
Every day.
and I believe it made a very big impression.
Sure.
That's why,
Yeah.
for me personally, I don't recall Big 13 becoming Big 13 until later on, because every time you drove by it, all you saw was WTVT. So
Right.
for me personally, it was
Yeah.
it was the studios of WTVT. Can we go to that video of Mary Ellen now? Because this is something that I think is very, very special.
It is.
The fact that Mike has allowed us to be the first, I guess, to air this very special video. Ladies and
Could
gentlemen,
I give you a little background on that?
please,
before
absolutely.
go?
Before we roll it, Mike.
Before we roll it, we were having the employee, Channel 13 50th anniversary employee reunion back in 2005. Mary Ellen at the time lived in Kauai, Hawaii, overlooking the beach where they shot South Pacific, the Mitzi
Beautiful.
Gaynor version. And so I said to my wife, why don't we go and meet Mary Ellen and I'll shoot a little tape for the reunion. So I shot a longer interview with her. We talked for a while, but I had to cut it down for the reunion and also for the obituary that Channel 13 did. Lloyd Sowers did a wonderful job on that about a year ago when Mary Ellen left us. This is a longer version of that interview, and you're going to learn a little bit more about Mary Ellen.
Enjoy this.
Oh, to be a kids show host, it was wonderful. It was just wonderful. I just love to work with children, and it was not like a job at all. It was just like having fun. I was in Toledo, Ohio for 3 years. I was in Cleveland, Ohio for 2 years, and in Tampa, Florida for 7 years. We moved from Ohio to Florida because it was too cold, and the wind coming off of the lake in Lake Erie in Cleveland is awful, just awful. So we went to Florida. And about 40 years ago, this is how I did these funny faces. The J for John and the S, and I would make the I with the J and the S for the nose, and that's how I just filled it in and made the funny face. One time I was drawing the funny face. Poop Dick is standing up on the top of my drawing board, and I got the picture halfway through, and he turned around and right all over the picture. I had to rip it off and start all over again. He was a character. And then when the show was over, we gave him to St. Pete Sunken Gardens, and from there he was stolen. So I don't know whatever happened to Poop Deck. Well, one day, this is when Ready Whip first came out, and they told me, take the Ready Whip and squeeze it and taste it and whatnot. So I said to the little boy who was standing next to me, would you like to taste it? He said, sure. So anyway, I squeezed it into his mouth, and it went whoom. You know, I didn't know how hard it would come out. And so anyway, he just was, oh, and I thought I killed a kid on TV. Oh my gosh. Oh. And then all the stuff just starts running out of his mouth and just, oh. So I said, well, how was it? And he said, well, it was good. So anyway, that saved the day anyway. Sometimes they would come up to me after the show was over and say, how come you're off the air? And it was just one of those things, you know, when people accepted it and I accepted it, and it was just time to go. Especially when Mickey Mouse came along. After the show was over, I took up golf and traveled all over with the West Coast Women's Golf Association, and we really enjoyed it. And my husband enjoyed his designing a golf course, and then we finally decided that we wanted to retire in a place where they didn't have the hot summer, and especially during the day you couldn't play golf in the summertime. That's how we ended up in Hawaii.
What a gorgeous lady. I mean,
isn't she wonderful?
Yeah, no, the sentiment is all there. The heart is all there. Now you know why so many kids were so fond of her show for so many years. And, you know, an attractive lady even in her later years as well. What a great life.
And I'd like to give a shout out, if I could, to Mary Ellen's children who are watching now from Zephyr Hills. To Gail and Robin and Mark, thank you for sharing your mother with us. You know, a lot of the time, the kids were swarming around her when she was making personal appearances, and you went along and helped wrangle Poop Deck, and we thank you for all that.
I made an appearance on that. I was lucky enough to make an appearance on that show, as a lot of my friends in the neighborhood did, and she had quite an impact on us, you know, for many, many years.
And by the way, she also filmed adventures, you know, with the 16mm camera. We may not have time to look at one of them tonight because we got so much to cover. And another shout out, if I could,
please,
to Mr. Pete Johnson, who's calling from Texas. Actually, he's not calling, he's on email. Pete, you're one of the best sports guys who worked under Salty Saul and Andy back in the 70s. And it was wonderful to see you at the reunion a few years ago. You always did a great job. And I'm glad you're watching tonight along with the other Channel 13 employees all around the country.
Honored to have you watching the Tampa Native Show tonight,
Welcome
Pete.
in.
Thank you, and welcome to our humble little show here at Tampa Bay Community Network. Look at that shot right there, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like it's a good day for singing a song. Is it a good day for singing along? That's the great Ernie Lee.
Yeah.
And we've got a little video that we'd like to go to in just a second.
Yeah, I need to set that up.
Set that up. Let's talk about Ernie Lee for a second.
Yeah, let me just say about Ernie Lee that I work the morning show regularly. Normally I was on the 3 to midnight shift, but I had the opportunity to work with Ernie Lee. And what another warm man who treated everybody equally. He was very humble. If you were on the crew, whether you had been there 2 years or 2 months, you know, he was just so kind. And I appreciated his gentle sense of humor and the way he worked with all of us. And he kind of made a country music fan out of me. I'm not particularly one, but, you know, you just had to. With his song, Just Give Me Dixie, and Pull Me Up and Put Me Down in Kentucky, things songs like that. And as a matter of fact, could you pass me the Ernie CD? Because this would be a good time to mention this. Now, this might key out because of the green behind me. So,
not too bad.
Ernie hadn't put out an album since 1965, and people who were visiting the website were curious about how they could hear Ernie's music again. It took us a few years to put together this CD, but it's called The Best of Ernie Lee. It has 26 classic tracks on it, and it's available if you go to the Big 13 website. You can find the Ernie Lee section. You could click on it and order it. All the proceeds go to the Corneliuson family. That was Ernie's last name, was Corneliuson, and they'll take care of shipping it to you. And it also has Just Give Me Dixie on there, which was recorded off of WTVT because, strangely enough, he never issued it as a record, believe it or not, and that was his theme song.
What about It's a Good Day?
That is on the record, yes. And now what we're going to see here is 2 segments with Ernie. Back in Halloween 1969, they did a little special effect, a little trick with Ernie Lee and a couple of the news guys, and then we'll hear a little bit of Ernie singing his signature tune, Just Give Me Dixie.
All right, let's give a listen.
Play it.
I'm a full believer in all the pollywog that takes place on Halloween.
Well, I'd have to see it to believe it.
There's no such thing as magic and spooks and goblins and that type of thing.
I mean, there might be some Irish gremlins or something like that, but I don't know.
If you fellas don't quiet down and quit talking about Halloween, I'll prove my point.
How?
I dare you.
You dare me. You fool with me, I'll change you both into pumpkins.
That I got to see.
Zap! Did it work?
I always wanted to get ahead.
Hey.
Sort of a squishy feeling in here.
Just give me Dixie, where folks are smiling, and all the while inviting you there where friends will greet you. Say I'm glad to meet you. Sunshine everywhere. Give me Dixie when night is falling and birds are calling by moonlit streams. Let me lie there, live and die there. Give me Dixie, land of my dreams.
33 years, but he
Wow.
originally came to WSUN in 1954.
Wow.
Didn't know that.
We've got a caller that's been standing by patiently. Let's go to the caller, see who it is. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Tony, and I'm calling from my chair right here.
Tony. This is Tony Zapponi. Hi, Tony.
He's on watch party.
How are you doing? First of all, I want to tell you, I am really enjoying the show so much. Mike and all of you doing such a great job.
Thank you.
First of all, I wanted to confirm that that was Manny DeCastro.
Okay, good. We
thought it
had
was.
a sneaky suspicion, and thank you for confirming.
That was that. He was a real good friend of mine and saved me from going to truancy school several times when I skipped school.
Very good.
Anyway, as Ernie, you were talking about Ernie, and I wanted to say several things. He worked with some of the really great people in show business, and I have an ad, you've probably seen it, that was in the 50s. He played at Fort Homer Hesterly Armory with Andy Griffith headlining before Andy Griffith did his Andy Griffith show. And he worked, what was the name of the...
Well, he was with the Midwestern Hayride on WLWT in Ohio, and also on the radio up there too, Tony.
Okay. And what was the name of the stuttering, the gentleman who stuttered?
Mel Tillis?
Oh, yeah, Mel Tillis.
Hit the bell for me.
Mel Tillis, thank you.
Mel Tillis was born in Tampa.
Really?
Wow.
With Mel Tillis.
I didn't know that.
Tony, if I can throw that in there, Tony, you should have saved that one for a Tampa trivia question.
Yeah, I was going to say that
got a lot more trivia questions.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Tony, we're going to go ahead and move on, talk about the news department because we're running a little bit short on time.
And what you see was what you got. I often had coffee with him at the Pancake House on Del Mabry.
Right.
Yes. Excellent.
Go up there at the strangest times. One other thing I want to say, and I think Mike mentioned this, was that he actually had a kids show on WSUN, which I watched all the time.
Yeah. Ernie Lee.
Riddle DD with Ernie Lee, I believe it was called.
Riddle DD with Ernie Lee. You're going to have a tough time stumping this gentleman here. He's ringing the bell like nobody else tonight. Tony, give us your Bolita number.
Oh, I want a Bolita number. 13.
And would you, there you go, in honor of Big 13. And Mary Ellen or Ernie Lee?
Mary Ellen.
Very good. Tony, thanks so much for being our friend, for being our fan, and for joining us today for lunch.
Yeah.
You bet.
Thanks, Tony.
You know, I could talk to Tony all day, but, you know, he's the #1 expert on all Tampa history.
Yes, he
but
is.
we got to move because we got Uncle
got a
Bruce
lot of
coming
ground
up
to cover.
fast.
Hour and a half.
And we have to talk about, and
Hugh Smith.
If Ward Smith is out there and is listening, call in right now. Now's a good time.
Please do.
Two lines are open, Ward.
Hugh Smith was an incredible newsman in the traditional Edward R. Murrow tradition.
Yes, sir.
He was totally serious and always behind the desk, you know, reading his news quite solemnly. But he believed that that was the proper way to present the news. And I don't know if he would have been too comfortable. You can see there he is in his various forms in the upper left. That's when he first came to the station in 1963. The middle shot, the color one, is him being in color for the first time. And then on the far right upper is him broadcasting from a helicopter live over Tampa to announce that WTVT had the capability of doing that. And that was another, you know, way of us digging at Channel 8. Lower left-hand corner, that's Hugh on the news set, early 70s.
Well, we remember that.
Yeah, and then there he is in the mid-80s with a different kind of glasses. And then towards the late 80s with a much softer demeanor and hairstyle.
Yeah.
You know, as time went on, both Hugh and Roy and everybody generally went a little bit softer in their presentation.
Sure.
Hugh got up from the desk and walked around and did a few things that he hadn't done before. He smiled more. In fact, I think we even have a shot of him smiling somewhere, just to prove to you that he would.
We do.
And I have a personal story that I'll share very quickly about Hugh. He was a taskmaster, and he was in charge of that newsroom, and it was not an easy job. But I saw a softer side of him once when I was sidelined with an appendectomy. I was over at the hospital, and I was laying there in quite discomfort, and who should come walking in but the anchor of the #1 rated newscast in Tampa, Hugh Smith. And Hugh spent a few minutes talking to me, smiling like he is now, cheered me up a little bit, and then he left, and I was the biggest celebrity on the hospital floor after that. And that's when I kind of saw a little bit behind that stern demeanor that he always had. And I was lucky enough to interview him for the Big 13 site back in 2002, and Hugh's of course gone now, but we remember all his contributions to news over the years.
Well, he was with us again for the
There
better
he is.
part,
Yeah, that's a
the better
great
part
shot.
of 30 years,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, and what an incredible run, isn't that?
Well,
to be with one
think about
station
it. I mean,
for that long?
you know, that's born to 30 years of age. I mean, you literally grow up, go through, you know, your adolescence, your puberty, your young adulthood, your first child, and this man is still giving you the news.
part of our
It's sort of how
households.
we felt nationally about somebody like Walter Cronkite, and I made that comparison today. I don't think it's too far of a stretch. He was our local Walter Cronkite.
And you know what? Network quality. He was network
Oh, of
quality.
course, and he decided to stay here just like Arch did,
Andy
just like Roy
Hardy
did.
was network quality.
course.
Soldy Saul, the networks would have loved to
They
have
would have
had
gone
these
with him.
guys.
He would have gone to New York in a minute.
Yeah. So, but we were lucky enough to have them stay in this
We
area
do
and
have
learn
a
much better.
video. It's video number 4. Look at that picture there. I'm just going to talk about this.
These
picture.
were the powerhouse.
There you go.
What a
The
powerhouse.
Big Three. Look at Hugh Smith covers all the news. Roy Lee prepares the forecast in my best DJ voice. Saul Fleischman knows the score. Huh? Come on. How many of us grew up in Tampa? Now, can I say this, Mike? And then we'll go to video number 4, Jeff, if you'll cue that up. How about this? This could be the quintessential?
Quintessential.
The quintessential. This could be the
Or quintessential.
Either one. This could be the quintessential test of a true Tampa native. In other words, if you remember those 3 cats doing their thing when you were here growing up as a kid in Tampa, I think you just might be a Tampa
Let's put
native.
that on the test form.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's go. Yeah, that's going to be the litmus test. Let's go ahead and bring up video number 4. Thank you, guys. Enjoy this.
Hopefully I'm being heard here, but these are shots of Hugh Smith seen over the years, and we have a little sound bite coming up here, as a matter of fact.
What makes a personality? Dick Harvey answers the question as we look inside Channel 13's family album.
Hugh Smith was born in Madison, South Dakota, and spent his childhood in North Dakota and Minnesota. He was editor of his high school newspaper and participated in intramural basketball. At the University of Minnesota, Hugh majored in journalism and was editor of the Minnesota Daily and spun records for the campus radio station. In the Army, he lectured on military warfare. Later, Hugh worked for the United Press and then became a reporter for a Minneapolis radio station. He was a radio and television newscaster in Louisville and then became news director of a Sioux City television station. In 1963, Hugh Smith joined the Pulse team and this year became WTVT news director, a top personality in Channel 13's family album.
Good evening, I'm Hugh Smith. Now, we don't usually begin this Pulse program from a helicopter, but that's where I am now. And the picture you're seeing is being televised live from a helicopter about 500 feet up above downtown Tampa. It is not a videotape recording you're watching. This is live. And we are doing it to formally announce that of all the television stations in this area, only Channel 13 now is able to report the news live from where it is happening and when it is happening.
Look at that. 3 shot. What do you think about that?
The big 3 and the big 3.
3 and the big 3. The big 3 and the little 3. There you go. The big 3 and the little 3. Look, I guess I can be Hugh Smith. That makes you Roy Lee, baby.
I guess that leaves me with
Salty Saul. There you go.
We'll get your hat like that. Okay?
If we could call up picture number 10B, we've got a special presentation in just a couple of minutes. we're going to have Uncle Bruce here with us
That's gonna be
live
exciting.
and in studio. But picture 10B, and take us out real quick. I'll talk real quick about this. You know, at the end of the show, when we do our sign-off, our patented sign-off, which is to say patented, which is to say salud and happy days.
Borrowed.
We typically do the Andy Hardy Manuel Barrow reincarnation. This is the original. This is the original version, which is Paul Reynolds, the gentleman who played Shock Armstrong with Manuel Barrow. And I'm going to guess this has to be the very early 60s or perhaps the late 50s? 50s, perhaps.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell.
The waiter from Valencia Gardens is standing there, and if somebody out there recognizes that waiter, this might be a great time to call in
be somebody's
and
dad.
let us know who that is. That could be very well could be somebody's dad there.
And the Valencia Garden just closed down a couple of years ago.
Valencia, we just lost the Valencia
landmark,
Gardens.
another landmark.
Yep, another landmark on. And you know, these landmarks, we got to preserve them, ladies and gentlemen, to the extent that we can, whether it's a cigar factory or whether it's something like the Valencia Gardens. I mean, we understand progress being what it is, but my goodness, our history and our heritage, it makes me sad. It hurts my heart a little bit. But look at that picture right there.
And
Mike?
you know, one of the reasons I love looking at this picture, besides Mr. Biro, is Paul Reynolds, who is sitting next to him, as you mentioned, played Shock Armstrong. He was a team player. You can plug him anywhere, kind of like Ernie Lee. You could put him on a sports set and he'd do the sports. You could put him in a commercial and he could deliver a commercial. You can put him in a Bozo the Clown outfit and he's Bozo, which he was.
Sure.
And also his most famous role, which was Shock Armstrong. And that's probably one of the things that people remember most about WTVT. And after we talk to Uncle Bruce, I hope we can pick up a little bit and tell more about the Shock Armstrong story. Now, as we speak right now, the telephone lines are being opened up to take that call from Uncle Bruce.
Well, I think Uncle Bruce is on line 5, but we're going to get to line 4 real quick because we've been told in the director's booth that we have an answer to who that waiter might be. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is David. I'm calling from Sarasota.
Hi, David from Sarasota. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
And David, you have an answer for us, and you think you might know who that waiter might be. Is that correct?
That waiter is Manuel Barrow's nephew, Joe Barrow.
Joe Barrow. Thank you so much, David. Are you related to the family, or you just knew that because you're good like that?
Man, I know everything.
David from Sarasota. Does David have a last name?
Agliano?
Oh, okay. Very good.
David.
Oh, David Agliano?
David from
Hi, David.
Valencia Gardens.
David, you think you're going to be the mystery guy here? You're going to call in the show. We're not going to know who you are.
We
Come on,
just
David.
saw him the other day.
Hi, David. How are you, Papa?
Good, man. I'm doing well.
We're missing our call from Kiki and Rouse tonight. You know that, don't you? They're watching because we know they're watching. Yeah. So that was Manuel's nephew, Joe Barrow.
That's correct.
And
Very
David's
good.
former owner of
David's family's a former owner of Valencia Gardens. Okay, right. David, give us your bolita number.
17.
17. Very good number. And Mary Ellen or Ernie Lee?
Ernie Lee.
Thank you, David, for being a fan and for being the family that brought us to Valencia Gardens for all those years. Thank you so much.
I'm enjoying the show.
Thank you, David.
That
caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Caller, are you there?
I'm here. Is Bruce here? Yeah, I thought you said caller. You had me confused.
Well, hey, we have a special caller on the line, viewers
sure
and fans of the Tampa Native Show. For those of you that may just be tuning in, we have one question for you. Where you been? We've been on the air for an hour already. Joining us now from Minnesota, if we can pull up the graphic I believe is number 14, is none other than Uncle Bruce. Uncle Bruce, thank you so much for calling us.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Great to hear.
Bruce, it's so good to hear you. We're stretching the edge of technology, but we're looking at a picture of you, well after you left your show with Little Mike, and a map of Minnesota, which you told me earlier the wind was howling out there. How's it doing now?
It's about 25 miles an hour, and the temperature is 93 degrees.
Wow, that's a jet blast, Uncle Bruce. That's what that is.
I think I'll move back to Tampa.
Hey, we'd love to have you back here in the area. We'll have you on the show live.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I think we should have a move to bring back Uncle Bruce to the Tampa Bay area. Because, Bruce, before you talk, I just wanted to again mention that you were a pastor who had a Sunday morning kid show on WFLA, and they liked you so much that they gave you a daily show. And it was first called Kids Carousel and then later renamed the Uncle Bruce Show. And you were on approximately 4 years on Channel 8. And can you tell me a little bit about what a typical show was in those days for you on the weekdays?
Well, we had about 3 cartoons usually. And then we played some games with the kids and had birthdays. And then later on, we finally replaced some of the cartoons with our own adventure stories.
Yes, and we're going to be looking at one of those shortly. But would you tell me a little bit about, I remember you used your puppets as examples of good character, of having good morals, being a friend. Would you tell us a little bit about how your background as a pastor affected what you put on the air?
Well, we told Bible stories with the puppets, and we had some children. We had 4 children, 2 girls and 2 boys on every week, and had some quizzes.
This was the Kids Bible Club on Sunday morning, right?
Yeah, yeah. Were you asking for something else, too?
Oh, yes. Like you also had morals on your daily show. Those puppets would tell kids about, how to behave and how to be a friend.
No, that's true. I don't remember details about that, but you're on the right track.
And I think Mario had a question for you about one of our favorite clowns.
I did, Uncle Bruce, and I was writing this down earlier today in pre-production. I said, you know what? I remember when I was in the 6th grade, Barney and Hector came to our elementary school, and they played this funny little game. They called up 5 kids on the stage, and they played with a little thing, a little toy back then called a time bomb. And then at the end of the game, they gave the winner this gigantic Tootsie Roll that they had to carry home with them. But my question to you, Uncle Bruce, was how did Barney come to be? How did Barney Bungle-Upper come to join the group with you, join the family?
Well, he was one of our floor directors. In fact, he was on most every show.
Is that right?
And I would get so tickled at him because he was a clown.
Okay.
I finally had this bright idea, why don't we make him a clown and put him on the show?
Well, there he is.
That's great.
We're showing an image of him right now. So really it was just more happenstance. He happened to have that personality. He was around. You said, well, you know what? I need somebody to bounce things off of, and Barney Bungle-Upper came to be.
He was a natural.
Well, I must tell you that he really pretty much became the star of the show. He was fabulous.
He's a legend.
We enjoyed watching those classic, what were they called, Steve? The
Ferris wheel
the
capers.
Ferris wheel caper.
Love
We've seen those, and I tell you what, they're an amazing. That's an amazing sequence of videos. Now, did you choreograph those, Uncle Bruce? Was that something that was born out of your imagination?
Yes, it was.
Well, it was quite physical in its humor. Barney was running around and flopping all over the place, and of course, you with your Mickey Spillane impersonation and Lil Mike doing what he was doing with you. It was amazing.
We had some great fun.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
And we should mention that very frequently on the Uncle Bruce filmed adventures, that if Bruce is on camera and Barney's on camera, who's running the camera? So, Uncle Bruce, would you answer that question? Who ran the camera a lot?
That was my beloved wife, Marge.
Oh, that's
nice.
Great job,
all the
Marge.
camera work. And she was tremendous. And she did some really unusual things. I know on one occasion we were doing an adventure at I think it was one of the springs about 50 miles north of Tampa. Anyway, it was an underwater thing, and we were down almost 100 feet.
Oh, wow.
And she was down there filming all this stuff. She was just great.
What a trooper. That probably was Silver Springs, no doubt.
Yeah, and Bruce wasn't...
No, it wasn't. On the West Coast. I think it was Crystal River.
Oh, Crystal River, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of springs
the source
up there.
of the river.
Uncle Bruce?
Well, could I, in that vein, Bruce, you also had an adventure at the Daytona Speedway, and didn't Marge shoot you from the back of a car while you were driving a sports car?
Yeah, but that part was filmed around here. It was supposed to be at the Speedway, but we did that one here. But she filmed it, yeah.
I have a question for you, Uncle Bruce, and I'm going to hog most of the airtime here because my co-hosts, they're just mute right now. But in pre-production this week, we saw this one picture that just captivated me and fascinated me. And I'm going to ask you about it now. I'll describe it. You'll probably remember it.
Yeah.
It's you and it's Barney, and it looks like a lion wrangler and a lion wrangler's assistant. But what is amazing to me about this photograph is you're standing there at peace with yourself, your arms folded, fit, smiling, looking happy as can be. The lion looks like he's 3 sizes. Yeah, he's 3 sizes bigger than any human I've ever seen, and he could eat your head with a small bite, let alone a big bite. But you don't seem bothered by that at all, Uncle Bruce. What were you thinking?
I was praying.
I imagine, and Barney looks a little trepidation. He's off to the side going, I'm not going to get any closer because if that lion just decided for a minute to just sneeze, somebody was going down. This was an amazing photograph. And
may I tell you something about that experience?
Please.
He was right there on the floor, and all of a sudden the lion took a notion to jump up on the counter.
Oh, wow.
And the counter was on wheels.
Wow.
When the lion did that, they rolled back against the scenery and everything came crashing down.
Oh, wow.
And the guy that was the trainer or whatever, he had great big scratches all over his arms. Forget that stuff.
Where was that, Uncle Bruce? Do you recall where that might have been? Was that in a studio or Laurie Park? Or?
No, it was in the studio.
Yeah, right there.
Where did the lion come from?
That's the largest cat I've ever seen like
yeah,
that.
I've never seen one that big.
We had a lot of visitors on our shows like that. We had some fabulous people as guests over the years.
Yeah, I recall that ventriloquist Jimmy Nelson was one of your guests one day.
Yes, yes. He and I were kind of friends. I had known him before, but that was a real treat.
Yeah. Well, it's a real treat
He was doing a performance over at Guy Lombardo's.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, Guy Lombardo.
Well, you know, one of the things is that we're going to be showing some clips of one of your adventures, Bruce. And I think the viewers who see this today will really be, oh, we haven't got that right now? Oh, apparently we have a little TriCaster trouble. But, and that's the switcher that we use in here. But your adventures were filmed on 16 millimeter, and they included stunts, local locations, and everything. What did you do? Did you look at the location and then write the script, or did you write the script and then find the location?
Well, there were some times when something that we saw inspired us, or else something would come into my head, and then I would be thinking and say, hey, that would be a good place to film this. But I guess you're right. It was pretty much experiences I'd had seeing these places.
Well, Uncle Bruce, I have to say, it is an honor and a privilege. We've had some pretty special guests in our almost 2 years of production here with this little ambitious community network public access television show, and this is one of our high moments for us. We thank you so much for taking the time to call us.
And I think Bruce wanted to add a little bit, a shout out to the people who worked with him at Channel 8 on the show.
This is a great time to do that.
Bruce, what would you like to say to them?
Well, you may not have time, but there were so many. I couldn't name them all, and of course Jerry was right at the top of the list, and Jack Jarvis and Frank Stringer were the directors. They were fabulous, and Jack, you know, became Hector. But there were so many people. The facilities where we did these shows were just wonderful, and providing the backgrounds for what we did. And of course, Marge was the champion above all else.
And your videographer for the whole,
yes.
for the whole. That's wonderful.
Great
Uncle
story.
Bruce, thank you so much. We're privileged to have you with us on the show. We would encourage you. We're here every Thursday night.
Bruce, come to Florida.
Yeah,
You know, if
come
you
to
come
Tampa.
back, we got a seat at the table right here next to us. We'd love to see you in person in studio with us. Even if you just come back for a week, give us a shout and let us know that you're going to be back into. We'll clear the schedule for you. We're here every Thursday, 6 o'clock your time, Central Time Zone. So look in on us and call us from time to time, will you?
Okay, I'll jump on my motorcycle.
Well, be careful because it's a little ways down here. But
Uncle Bruce, how's little Mike?
Oh, little Mike. Yeah, is little Mike there?
Hey, Mike. Yeah, come here. Okay.
Hi.
They wanted you to say hello. Oh, okay. Hello there.
Mike is the best.
There he is. Yeah, there he is in the middle there.
Yeah.
Mike with his Mickey Spillane hat and his trench
freckles.
coat. Oh, we loved him.
And I'd like to mention.
I'm the good-looking one.
There you go.
I'd like to mention that Bruce constructed Little Mike himself.
Wow.
And he did it by reading a book
amazing.
written by Paul Winchell, the famous ventriloquist.
Of course.
And like me, Bruce was a big fan of Paul Winchell.
So right.
No, that's Senior
Mike has
Winston.
been-
Oh, Senor Winston, that's right.
Mike has been greatly improved over the years. He's much handsomer now.
Oh,
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Do we have that later shot, shot number 5, which shows, you can see that Mike's hair is kind of short in the early 60s in that shot.
Yeah.
It's the shot with the Minnesota hoop.
Right. It's number 14. It's number 14 in your roster.
That shows a later little Mike and a little more mature Uncle Bruce.
Oh, there he is.
You can see he got a nice,
Looks like he got a
wig.
hair.
Yeah,
I think he got a wig. And I'm talking about little Mike got the wig. That's Bruce's hair there. Bruce.
Uncle Bruce, whatever supplements Mike's taking, we need.
Very nice.
Okay, you're great, Bruce, and take care, and
Thanks for the
thank you for
memories,
all
Uncle
that you
Bruce.
did.
Thank you for all those wonderful years,
Yes.
Uncle Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
We grew up with
Well,
that.
thank you for inviting me.
You
Okay.
bet.
It's our pleasure.
See you soon.
You know, weren't we lucky to be in the Tampa Bay area and
Oh,
have
yes.
these wonderful people? And
Well said. Well said. Very
Yes.
lucky.
Oh, we've got some more to get to. So if we could, let's keep rolling
We gotta
right
rock
along.
it.
Yeah, let's go to our next. Let's go to picture number.
Oh,
Oh,
Saul.
there's Salty
There he
Saul.
is.
There's Salty Saul. Ladies and gentlemen, take us out of the shot. Let's look at that cake with
He's
the great
celebrating 5th anniversary of WTVT.
Isn't
Quite
that
a cake.
amazing? And it says on there, it says happy birthday, happy anniversary to Mr. 34. And I'm wondering, is that a reference to 34 years being on the air?
Yeah,
Do you happen to know?
Well, Saul did start out on WDAE radio for years before he came into television. And when he did arrive in television at Channel 13, you know, Saul didn't have a lot of hair on his head. It was a little shiny.
Yes.
And rather than put makeup on, he decided to wear that hat. And that's why.
It was a great idea.
And nobody knew better than Saul where every fish in Tampa Bay was.
That's
right. He was the
And
expert.
if I can say Tampa Bay.
Well, it would fit there.
That's right. That's right. It's
And
appropriate.
he used to show film of locations and say to the viewers, "Where am I?" And then if they wrote in with the correct answer, they would win a Zebco rod and reel. And so that was.
And what little kid didn't have a Zebco rod and reel? Steve
Right.
had
I had a
one.
202.
I had one.
Yeah.
And listen, we've got a video that's hasn't been. It's a very short video, about 35 seconds. We'd like to go ahead and show that now, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy this. You probably haven't seen this in quite a while. A little black and white action. Video number 6.
All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, let's step up here just a second and bring you the finale on the Salty Saul Budweiser show. And that is Salty Saul's Best Bet. Now, of course, if you're wondering what that means, over 20 years ago, I originated the idea of the best bet in the city of Tampa. And it's a pleasure to continue it on my new Budweiser show.
There we go.
And you know what? Because of the time factor, we're going to have to rock it through some of these
Yes,
other
we
mentions.
are.
Yeah.
But Andy Hardy, who was the assistant sports director
Yes.
under Saul and was promoted to sports director when Saul retired in 1974, was a quick-witted genius, and the crew loved him. He was kind of a prankish, kind of puckish kind of guy off camera.
He's kind of cute too.
Huh?
He's kind of cute.
Yeah. He was a very sharp-looking guy, and you should see his son Kevin. His son Kevin is a very, very handsome guy. But everybody loved Andy, and the viewers did too. When you put Saul and Andy together, you had an unbeatable team. And part of that team was Mr. Pete Johnson, who's watching in Texas right now, and Sherry Taylor. And you know, they all did a wonderful job. And Saul was the life of the party, and he was everything you see on TV. He was in real life.
Larger than life. Look at that wonderful smile there.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of callers we'd like to get to. We're coming quickly to the close of yet another amazing installment of the Tampa Native Show. 90 minutes, and we still, I'm looking at our call sheet, our run sheet.
Yeah.
We still have Roy
Lots
Leap
to
to
go.
talk about. We still have Shock Armstrong. We still have a little bit of Captain Mac. We're gonna go to the callers. Got 10 minutes left, and we've got a blooper reel that's approximately 5 minutes, guys. Now, how long is the blooper reel?
9.
We'll never
The
make
blooper
it.
reel is 8 minutes. We're going to give them about 4 minutes of that blooper reel, maybe 3. But let's go to the callers real quick. And we apologize for stepping on the gas here, but we're running out of time, and Mike's got to catch a flight
So
back to
much.
LA. Caller, you're on the air. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is David Westwater, and I'm from Riverview. I talked to you guys last year about the Cleveland show.
Yes, David. I remember. We remember you. How are you?
Good. I use your show like A&E and Discovery. I mean, I don't really know the people, but you're enlightening my whole view of Tampa. I mean, as far as what's going on, what used to happen.
That's
it's
pretty
like,
cool.
I wish I grew up here.
That's pretty cool.
It was
and
a
listen,
great place.
That's as high a compliment and high praise as we can expect. We thank you so much, David, because you know what? You hadn't called us in a little while. We do remember you calling from Riverview before. And if we can provide you with a little bit of insight as to how special we think it was growing up here in Tampa during those wonderful early years, then, man, we're doing our job. And we would like to ask you 3 things. Number 1. Okay, 2 things. Yeah, 2 things. Give us your Bolita drawing number.
Right.
I'll go with my usual 54.
54. And the second thing we want to ask is that you make sure you look in on us, man, and call whenever you get the chance. We're here every Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Right, I get like some kind of weird basic cable where I live, so your channel bounces from 107.01. I gotta find it.
Keep an eye on us, and we'll be here every Thursday. Thank you, David. We appreciate your call.
Okay, keep teaching me about Tampa.
We will, brother. Thank you so much. That's so nice.
And if you're going to learn about Tampa, you have to learn about this guy. This
Talk
was
a
the
little bit about
premier,
this man right
the
here.
premier meteorologist in the country.
Yeah.
The WTVT Weather Service was the envy of every TV station and every government weather service in the country. And Roy Lee came to the station in 1959, and he turned, you know, a well-run situation in the weather department into a NASA science lab. He was the first with radar for a television station that covered the entire state. MacDill Air Force Base used to get upset about it. And he was always on the leading edge with innovations, color radar, satellite imaging. And when Roy was on the job, you know that everything's going to be okay. He's going to take care of you. One of his meteorologists, Howard Shapiro, who was there for 35 years, just retired about a year ago and correctly predicted snow in January of 1977. Yes, Howard is sitting next to Roy in that picture.
Absolutely. Paul Delgado, very young Paul Delgado, right above Roy there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Roy was with WTVT. Actually, he came in 1957. I was wrong about that. And he retired in 1997 for 40 wonderful, incredible years.
40 years.
Yeah.
40 years, ladies and gentlemen. 40 years. Roy Leap, the great Roy Leap, was there to tell us each and every day what we can expect from the weather. And the two things I remember about Roy Leap was, of course, his dog.
Yes,
That he
Scud.
always, Scud was always with him and dressed usually to the nines. And the other thing I remember about Roy was that infamous pointer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I can throw this in there personally as well. I didn't talk to you about this beforehand, Mike, but when I was in the 9th grade at Coleman, we had a science teacher who looked very familiar to most of us on the first day of class. And he went by the name of Doug Cargill, who was also a colleague of Roy's at Channel 13, and he was a meteorologist as well. And who among us doesn't remember Roy Leap, winner of the AMS
Seal of Approval.
Seal of Approval, the American Meteorological Society. We just grew up with that.
And Roy also has AMS card number 10, and the Weather Center at WTVT is named after him.
Wow.
And he continues to monitor the weather today at the village where he's living in northern Tampa. And you could get your own forecasts if you live in there from Roy.
Roy, if you're out there, Roy, if you're out there, we're making a call. Roy, please call our show, contact us. We would love to have you on the show and talk to you all about these wonderful years, 40 years worth of broadcasting. We love to talk to you, Roy.
And again, we had him here in Tampa. Nobody else had Roy Leap. We had him.
And again, we had Hugh Smith, we had Roy Leap, we had Andy Hardy, and they stayed here. And they were here for 30 and 40 years. That's pretty cool and unheard of. It's sort of like when Mickey Mantle plays for the Yankees for 20 years.
Says a lot about Tampa.
Or Cal Ripken Jr., who plays for the Orioles, and he just doesn't, we had these wonderful people here the whole time we were growing up. Can we get this call real quick?
If you're lucky enough to be from Tampa, you're lucky enough.
How about that one? How much time do we have left?
6 minutes.
6 minutes. We've got to get to the blooper reel. We have to. We've got to get to our Bolita drawing, and I'm going to take this last call.
This blooper reel is old bloopers, and it starts off in the 50s.
All right. Caller, we got just a couple of minutes. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, please. Caller?
It's Tom from New York.
Oh, Tom, our NEC. Tom, we don't have a lot of time.
I'll go through this quickly for you. The show is fantastic tonight. I can't say, you mentioned James Arnaz, Captain Kangaroo, Uncle Bruce mentioned Guy Lombardo.
There you go.
Mary Ellen was from Toledo. My father was born and raised in Toledo. I was born and raised in Ashland, Ohio. It just all flowed back for me. Thank you very much for the show. It was incredible. Great.
Give us your Bolita number real quick, Tom.
42.
42. You've got it, Tom. Thanks so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our Northeast correspondent. Tom calls us each week from New York. Give us about 2 minutes of just a taste of that blooper video because it's delicious. We'll come back. We'll close out with the Bolita drawing. We'll get ready for that while you're enjoying this.
This is Joe Loughlin welcoming Walter Cronkite to the Pulse team. He'll be joining you each night at 6:45 to bring you all the world and national news backed up by CBS News correspondents the world over. So join us each weekday night at 6.
Hoffman, there's just one thing I want to ask you. Why are you such a dumb shit? Shit. Shit. Oh, shit. Ah, shit. Ah, shit. What the shit does he say?
Would you all please be quiet?
Hey, that's enough.
Oh, boy.
Doing it again.
Good morning. I'm Rod Challenger, and this is Pulse Final. President Carter has reversed one of Gerald's...
Jim Anderson of Houston apparently isn't too worried about what's in. He's more interested in what used to be in, like in the Victorian era. Dark shadows upon the picture. Now we're back again.
Pulse 13's Tim Smith tells us about the connection.
Backed up by CBS News correspondents all over the globe.
However, this position is about 130 miles to the east of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we just lost our era, even though it is still moving to the west-northwest.
Damn, Dick, you look.
I even brushed my teeth this morning.
Well, Merry Christmas, everyone. This is Andy Hardy here with Manuel Biro for Valencia Garden Restaurant. Manuel, let's get it off with a big salute.
Salute and happy days, 1800.
5 months. 5 months.
Yes.
I stepped on his line. I'm sorry.
Well, we have literally about 2.5, 3 minutes left. We want to say a word about Captain Mac, and then we're going to get to our bolita drawing. Please, Mike.
Just wanted to say Captain Mac was on WSUN TV starting when the station signed on the air in 1953, and he was on until 1959. He was phenomenally popular. He was a local disc jockey with WSUN Radio, and when WTVT went on the air in 1955, they lured him away, and that's why you see the WSUN ad on the left and the WTVT ad on the right. So WSUN hired another Captain Mac, and at one point there was 2 Captain Macs on the air. But then after a while, the real Captain Mac, Burl McCarty, got a little tired of driving to Tampa, went back to WSUN in TV 38 on the $1 Million Pier, and that's where he finished out his television career.
That's a wonderful story. Okay, we've got 2 Ernie Lee CDs to give away, as we do here each week on the show. Less than just 2 minutes to go. Okay. We're going to ask that you reach in there, Mike, as our guest of honor this week, of course. Reach in there, pull one out.
Do I get to read it too?
You do, and baby girl, you ready?
I am ready.
Is that a letter, or is that just number 29
It's
there?
number 29, correct.
29.
Let's see.
Closest to without going over.
Oh, nobody picked 29, did they?
Well,
no, not even in the 20s.
Without going over.
That would be
30.
17, David Agliano.
Oh, Valencia Garden.
17,
So he
Valencia
gets-
Gardens, David Agliano.
Gets the Ernie CD.
Congratulations,
And we got
David.
one more to give away.
Okay. I'll try and do a better job.
Yeah, get in there. Mix them all up there, Mike. There you go.
Maybe Arch Deal will get something. Well, this is number 12. That's pretty close to Arch's age.
Okay,
Number 12.
let's see. We have number 8.
Which
That's
is?
Arch Deal.
Arch Deal.
There you go.
Arch, don't say I never did you any favors.
As happens so often. Thank you so much. You know, listen. You got to get in to win, and so many times, 1 minute to go, we're being told. Well, all I can say is this: on behalf of the Tampa Native Show, we are privileged to have Mike Clark with us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't had the opportunity, please make sure you visit his website. It's big13.net, big13.com. Let me also throw out real quick, on a sad note today, we lost the Queen of Disco, Donna Summer. I know that's an unrelated topic, but for those of us that grew up in the 70s, it's a big deal. Also, La Septima, one more time, another bite at the apple on June the 7th. We got to go back there and defend that cause. And the Rays game. The Rays game, again, June 30th. Look for it on Facebook.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Mike, thanks so much for being
Thank you
here
for having
with us.
me, and maybe I'll come back next time I'm in
You
town.
better come back. We're going to hold you to that. How many seconds to go, guys? 15 seconds to go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the fastest 90 minutes on TV anywhere. On behalf of the 15-minute girl, Tampa Steve, Mike
And
Clark.
me, and I'd like to thank WTVT and WFLA for the use of these photographs and videos, and watch Fox 13 News.
Let's do it. On behalf, salute and happy days. We love you, Tampa.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Back when we were younger and everything seemed new, we used to have a lot of fun, yes we did, no matter what we do. Sleepy days, long summer nights, going anywhere we please, with love that I could call my own, love that I've always known, the city that I call my home, a home from which I never roam. This love affair was meant to be. I love her and she loves me. I remember Tampa, oh, she remembers me. She remembers me. I remember, yeah, yes I do. Oh, I remember, yeah, me and you. Tampa native, can't you see? I will share my story with you to preserve its history. Yeah. All right now, don't forget, Thursdays, 7 p.m. on TBCN, home of the Tampa Native Show.